And there is no real easy answer to that. To be flip about it, it's a little bit like what attracts you to another person, what makes you fall in love. It's hard to quantify that. There are obviously some parameters that are important. And it's not that any one of these qualities is the magic one, or that any one, the lack of any one would kill the possibility of your being interested in an artist. But you're looking for some kind of sense that this artist really has developed what they do, that they've been on some kind of a journey. In other words, that they have gone through a process of exploration and arrived at some insights of their own. You're looking usually for some kind of technical proficiency, although that can be a slippery slope. There are plenty of artists who have all the technical proficiency in the world and nothing to say, so that's, it doesn't do much for you. You are looking for someone who has something interesting to say, and that can range from the simplest observation of a natural phenomenon to a complex political statement, to insights into the human condition. I mean, something interesting to say can cover an awful lot of ground. It can be a lot of different things. And then I think most importantly, you're looking for some kind of original combination of those qualities. And that obviously is a particularly Western point of view. We like originality. And originality can be a very subtle shift on that which goes before it. It does not have to be something radically new and different. But that leads me to another observation which ties in with my earlier remarks about the museum. I think within the art world we tend to get awfully hermetic. We are in this little bubble. If you're really involved in the contemporary art world, there's maybe, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 fellow travelers in the world, and the kind of core of that art world tends to be very self-referential. You go to the same art fairs, go to the same museums, read the same art magazines, and so you get this little dialogue about a given set of issues or a given set of artists' work, and an artist can come along and put a little tweak on that, and within the art world that can be interesting. I think it's really important to remember, from my perspective at least, that really good art will speak to that art world, but also speak to people who are outside of that art world and have never heard of the work that you're putting this little bit of a tweak on. So I think the stuff that lasts, the stuff that matters, the stuff that will be around 50 years, 100 years from now, generally can speak to both camps, if you will. The camp that is the insider camp, I think it can be easy to make fun of them. It can be easy to dismiss them. It can be very easy to say, oh, it's a clique, and they look after their own, and they scratch their own backs. And I don't think that's a smart choice to make or conclusion to come to. Like any profession, there are cliques, there are insider groups, but also like any profession, there is a sophisticated language that gets built up through years of experience. And that language, while it can be hermetic and can be self-referential, I think is also valuable and shouldn't be dismissed. But as a curator, at least from my point of view, the role of the curator is to be able to bridge both of those worlds, to take that experience, to take that knowledge, to take that perspective about what's gone before, and look at the work in front of you, place it in context, and also judge whether or not it would be interesting to there's a certain employee here at the museum who has a mother-in-law, and sometimes we use her as like a, so-and-so's mother-in-law be interested in this work? The answer is yes. That's good. So having that kind of broad range, I think, is really important. In terms of what can an artist do to negotiate the process of dealing with curators or dealing with gallerists, I think that's something that in this country in particular, there's very little training for, or very little explicit advice given. I was, through a happy circumstance, ended up doing my graduate work as an artist in England at Goldsmiths. And at Goldsmiths, the approach at the time at least, really was that the work you made in the studio was one half of the process, and I would be rigorous about talking about that. But once you felt that you had gotten your work to a certain point, you were only halfway done, because if nobody was looking at it, what was the point of making it? And so how you negotiated getting people to look at it and getting it out into the world was equally as important as the quality of the work that you made. Now, that led to, was sort of taken to an extreme with the YBAs, the British artists, and the sort of marketing aspect of things maybe got a little bit out of hand. But nevertheless, I think that that idea of marketing is incredibly important. And I use that word on purpose. I think most artists think of it as a kind of repulsive word. But if you think about it, what it really means is how do you get people to look at what you do? And I have yet to meet an artist that doesn't want people to look at what they do. Because the artists that don't want to meet me. So there you go. They're quietly working away. Total bliss. So how do you do that? Whole range of different ways. And I really want to just touch very briefly on them. I think that it is incredibly important to try to be honest about what are the strengths and weaknesses of your own work and figure out what you want to do with it. Two separate issues, but equally important. To take the second one first, what do you want? Do you want to have a solo show at the Museum of Modern Art? Do you want a commercial gallery? Do you want to be in a television show? Do you want, and what do you want to have happen with this work? Do you want to touch people? Do you want to make money? Do you want to show off? And I'm not saying any of these are good or bad, but there are different things that you might want to do with your work. And it's important to know what you want, because if you really don't care about selling work, then you're probably making a mistake trying to get a New York gallery to show your work, because guess what? They're in the business of selling things. So if your work doesn't fit within those parameters, you're kind of barking up the wrong tree. So it's important to know what you want.